our next speaker, we are going to be hearing about how Zionist labor policy has destroyed Arab-Jewish class solidarity. Give it up for Maya.
I'm not using the microphone. Okay. She's built different. Yes. Well, I think my voice is loud enough, but if you guys can't hear me, then let me know. So my name is Maya Hilmi. I am a Palestinian from East Jerusalem. I'm a graduating senior.
Might not be loud enough.
Not loud enough.
You thought you were too cool for it.
I thought I was too cool for it, yes. Now I think I'm loud enough. Let me see how I could face the position. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Hilmi. I'm a Palestinian from East Jerusalem. I am a graduating senior. And today, I'm going to be speaking on labor Zionism. So let's begin with an idea. Workers of the world unite. Isn't it one of the most powerful slogans of the 20th century? Now, let's test it in one of the hardest places imaginable. Mandatory Palestine in the 1920s. But our story starts a little earlier, with a foundational choice. In the early 1900s, labor Zionism chose Avoda Ivrit, Hebrew labor. Their slogan was the conquest of labor, and their goal, an exclusive Jewish society. Their method was to build a segregated economy from the ground up. And this was no abstract theory. It was a deliberate, multi-pronged campaign. And it functioned like a machine for separation, built from three parts: economic incentives, institutional pressure, and ideological persuasion. First, they removed the economic reason to hire Arabs. Why would a farmer pay more for a Jewish laborer? Zionist institutions like the Jewish National Fund actually subsidized the difference to now make it so that a Jewish worker was made to cost the same as an Arab worker. Second, they built a parallel Jews-only world. They created Jewish-only labor exchanges, employment offices that only sent Jewish hands to Jewish farms. They established model farms like Sajera as showpieces, where only Jews could work the land. They wrapped the Jewish worker in a cocoon of exclusive services, communal kitchens, laundries, and loan funds. Your job was a ticket into a total social system from which Arabs were barred. Third, they wielded ideology as a weapon. Parties like Coalition lobbied, petitioned, and publicly shamed Jewish landowners who hired Arabs. Their newspaper, Hahdut, edited by a young David Ben-Gurion, framed Hebrew labor as a revolutionary and spiritual return to the soil. Now, using Arab labor wasn't just a business decision anymore, it was actually a moral betrayal, a failure of Zionist faith. They also created new facts on the ground by buying huge tracts like the Jezreel Valley and founding the first kibbutzim. They built fresh territories where the rule was Hebrew labor from day one. And they even engineered the population by recruiting Jews from places like Yemen, explicitly to bolster the Jewish workforce and displace Arab laborers. The result? They didn't just hope for a Jewish economy. No, they built the institutional machinery to enforce it. They turned the Palestinian Arab neighbor into a competitor, and a competitor into a stranger in his own land's economy. And into this divided world stepped in our idealists. But they didn't come from nowhere. In fact, they came from within the very system they would later oppose. Fun fact, many founders of what would become the Palestine Communist Party were veterans of Coalition, the same socialist Zionist movement that preached Hebrew labor. And they were true believers in a Jewish socialist homeland. But after the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, a radical faction within them was captivated by a bigger idea, world revolution. In 1919, they formed the Socialist Workers' Party, and their dream was a hybrid, Zionist settlement fused with proletarian revolution. and they applied to join the Communist International in Moscow, the Comintern, expecting a hero's welcome. But what they got was a blunt, ideological slap in the face. Moscow's reply was scathing. The Comintern condemned their Zionism as utopian, reformistic, and counter-revolutionary. It was, they declared, a colonial tool of British imperialism. And the orders from above were non-negotiable. To join the global communist movement, they must completely renounce Zionism and dissolve their international organization. Most crucially, the Comintern issued a directive. A communist party in an Arab-majority land could not be a club for Jewish settlers. They had to root themselves in the Arab working class, recruit Arab members, publish in Arabic, become an Arabic party in character and leadership. And this was the brutal birth of the Palestine Communist Party in 1924. It was born from a paradox. Founded by Jews from the Settler Project, now under strict orders to fight that very project and make common cause with its Arab victims. So, from its first day, the Palestine Communist Party's commitment to Arab-Jewish solidarity wasn't just idealism, no. It was actually a condition for existence, dictated from an office in Moscow. They were ordered to build a bridge even as the ground beneath them split apart. And their mission was not chosen. It was assigned, and it would force them into an impossible series of loyalties. To their new international comrades, to the Arab workers they were ordered to recruit, and to the Jewish community from which they themselves came. And so the Palestine Communist Party was born under impossible orders. And almost immediately, those orders smashed into reality, exposing the party's deep internal contradictions. So first, there was the contradiction of loyalty. On paper, the Palestine Communist Party was fiercely anti-Zionist. It called Zionism a colonial tool, but in life, its Jewish members lived inside the yishuv. They relied on its institutions, their families were there, and then in August 1929, violence erupted. The Western Wall riots saw horrific massacres, over 130 Jews and Arabs killed. To us, it's the Al-Buraq uprising, but for a Jewish communist, this was a nightmare. Do you follow the Comintern line and call this a heroic anti-colonial uprising? Or do you call it what it felt like? A reminder of the pogroms you ran from, a wave of communal violence targeting your own people. The party's Jewish leader, Joseph Berger, struggled to frame it as a tragedy manipulated by colonial powers, but for many of its members, the gap between ideological purity and communal survival was unbridgeable. And this bled into the second contradiction, the Jewish pole. Despite its orders, the Palestine Communist Party remained, in practice, a Jewish party. The Comintern scathingly noted that 99% of its work was among Jews. They called this Yeshuvism, a Zionist hangover. But how could it be otherwise? Its organizers spoke Hebrew and Yiddish, not Arabic. They were strangers in Arab lands, and they were trying to recruit Arab workers who saw them, understandably, as part of the settler project. So they were punished for doing the only work they could do, while failing at the job they were ordered to do. This short-lived mixed union, Ehud, collapsed from mutual distrust. And this ultimately set up the third and most explosive contradiction, the fight over what was really happening. After 1929, the party line from Moscow was absolute. What happened was a national liberation movement, full stop. But many in the Palestine Communist Party's Jewish ranks saw the anti-Jewish violence and called it a pogrom. And Moscow's response was brutal. That view was a right deviation, a Zionist infection. To stay in the party, you have to deny your own analysis of the violence you had just witnessed. And members who refused were purged, and the party was being ordered to reinterpret reality itself, which led to the final devastating contradiction, the purge for purity. In 1930, the Comintern enforced Arabization from top to bottom. Veteran Jewish founders who had built the party were systematically sidelined. A new leadership was installed, led by Moscow-trained Arab communists like Radwan al-Haylu. Think about the crushing irony, guys. To prove its commitment to Arab liberation, the party had to demote the very comrades who founded it. And this wasn't organic growth. It was an imposed surgery that carved the national division directly into the party's own heart. The dream of binational solidarity was shattered from within. By trying to obey Moscow, the PKP ended up mirroring the very split it was meant to heal. It became two camps under one name, held together not by solidarity, but by a failing command from thousands of miles away. So why does this 20-century-old story of a failed political party matter? This research began for me with the question from organizing. Why does genuine coexistence under the structure of Zionism feel so impossible? The story of the Palestine Communist Party is a historical answer etched in failure. It shows us that the problem wasn't and isn't a lack of people wanting peace or solidarity. The PKP was full of them, brave people willing to risk everything for a shared future. The problem was actually the structure that they faced. They were trying to perform surgery with a tool designed to inflict the wound. Their mission was solidarity, but they were operating inside a political economy engineered from its foundation for separation. A system of avodah ivrit that didn't just prefer Jewish labor, but systematically replaced excluded and impoverished Arab labor to build a separate society. So when violence erupted in 1929, it wasn't just a random outbreak, it was the logical explosion of decades of engineered exclusion, of being made a stranger in your land's own economy. And when the PKP was ordered to side unequivocally with that uprising, it confronted the ultimate contradiction. Its members were part of the community perceived as the oppressor. The very identity of its Jewish members became its central obstacle to the anti-colonial mission it espoused. And the party didn't just fail to build a bridge. It was ordered to dismantle its own foundation, to purge its Jewish leadership, to prove its legitimacy. And in the end, the PKP didn't transcend the national divide. It institutionalized it within its very own organization. And this history compels a sobering conclusion. In a settler colonial context, where the political and economic system is fundamentally structured around ethnic privilege and displacement, class solidarity is not just difficult, it is systematically sabotaged. The material interests of its settlers, even the socialist ones, are built upon the dispossession of the native. And this creates a chasm that ideology alone cannot cross. The PKP strategy teaches us that the call for coexistence or solidarity rings hollow if it does not first confront the architecture of separation itself. From my point of view, you cannot build unity on the foundation of exclusion. You cannot have reconciliation with the oppressor without addressing the original ongoing fracture from its onset. Their story is not merely a historical footnote. It is a cautionary tale for anyone who believes that a shared class interest can automatically override a system built on national exclusion. And it forces us to ask, what does true solidarity require? It requires more than good intentions. It requires dismantling the very structures that make us strangers and competitors in the first place. The Palestine Communist Party's members were told to unite the world. But first, they would have had to change it. Thank you.